Welcome to Allie's Attic, where you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is one of Canada's most unique and honored artists, and you may know her as the Arctic Rose, Susan Aglukark. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Allie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. I still remember when I worked at NCI as the Métis Rose, and you brought me a rose.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it touched me so much. Okay, so tell us about your journey, Susan, because you have done so many things. It's just incredible.
Well, thank you, Allie. The caption that I would say suits me best is accidental artist. I moved from small town Nunavut, and I don't go specifically into which community because I think the challenges that I could no longer deal with or cope with at the time that I left are challenges that are fairly common in all of our Indigenous communities. So when I left small town Nunavut, I moved to Ottawa to work as a translator. And this is about 1989, 1990. And I wasn't a singer-songwriter. I was by no means at all a public figure of any kind, frankly. In fact, the opposite. I had left to leave. I had left to start over. I had left to put some pieces back together. And I had determined that I would live a private life. And so early 1990s, I moved to Ottawa to work as a translator. I'd always loved flying, just in general, loved flying, small planes, and had decided in my mid-teens I should fly airplanes. So while working this government job, I actually, in fact, started night school to get my pilot's license and had a thought behind that being if I did move back home, that I would fly airplanes at home, that I would work for a small airline company and just fly at home. Shortly after this starts, the night schooling for my pilot's license, I ended up through a series of happenstances with CBC Radio in Ottawa, submitting a very small demo of a couple of what were initially poems written in Inuktitut, written when I was in high school, and submitted them as a demo to CBC Radio. They used to do these northern compilations, so they would select northern artists across the north, when it was all the Northwest Territory still. And they heard through the grapevine there was this girl, and I still to this day don't know who would have recommended me, because the extent of my experience at that time was, youth group gatherings at church in Aglukark, and it was Friday evenings that we would get a group together and we'd just jam in the church, old hymns and Christian songs. So aside from that, I had absolutely no experience whatsoever. But here's CBC Radio contacting me, asking me to submit a demo, and of course I'm like, I'd love to submit something. I don't know what a demo is. You tell me what a demo is, and I'm happy to do it. And so there I was, borrowed a guitar. I knew 3 chords and came up with 6 melodies and put these 6 poems to 6 melodies and submitted those to CBC Radio. And there I was, the accidental artist. So 2 things happened at around that time. I was dealing with the absolute aloneness of being away from home. I was never entirely lonely. I'm very comfortable with my own company. But being away from home, being away from my culture, being away from my language, being away from my family, those were the more daunting things that I had to overcome when I moved to Ottawa. The other thing too was the more I opened up the reasons why I had left home, the more the hurt invaded, the more the absolute fear of having to deal with this anger invaded my life. And the reason for my leaving was this court case that I had been involved in against my abuser, a man who had sexually abused me as a child, and many others in our communities. And after the court case, as many of us Indigenous people know, the system is kind of, it works in its own way. It does not work for our environments, our northern environment. Mm-hmm. And only because we are so isolated that as much as a conviction and getting the perpetrator away from our environment is a sort of a success, they serve their time and then they come home, and then what? And that's where I couldn't function in a healthy way any longer in my own community. And that's why I left. And then when I found myself settling into a life in Ottawa, the life was this government job and this night schooling, and now this recording project, and through the recording project, all this writing, and through the writing, opening up this whole other possibility, which was, as you open the wound, you have given yourself an option. Do you heal it as well? What do you do with this new thing?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the new struggle for me. Was okay. I knew I needed to leave that environment. I had left it. I started a new life in Ottawa, and then this recording opportunity opens up. And through that, a producer who approached me, he had no idea, and no one would. No one knew why I moved to Ottawa at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there I was with him and songwriting, and I was very honest with him and said, here's what's going on. And this is what I know right now. I'm not pretending to be a great songwriter. Frankly, I'm not. I'm not a great singer. It's not, the Arctic Rose Project was not about pursuing a career. So I didn't see what they saw at the time. I knew only that whatever had started with the Dreams for You recording, it was carrying on through the Arctic Rose writing. And the honest conversation with the producer at the time was, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling all these emotions. I don't know how to deal with them. But right now, this is what I will write about, because that's where I'm at, emotionally and personally, and in my mind and heart. And, the beauty of wonderful producers like Randall Prescott and all the people we worked with in the studio was they gave me the space I needed to do the writing. They didn't know, per se that there was all this stuff going on in my life,
Mm-hmm.
but they gave me the space I needed to write what I needed to write. So songs like Anger and Tears and The Arctic Rose and Searching, all that stuff came out. And I mean, as much as it was good to put it in a song and I'm introduced to a new outlet, it was a whole can of worms. I wasn't prepared for what I was starting.
Yeah.
Those were the early years.
Those were the early years. You were a busy lady.
Yeah.
Now, I'm Métis, so I've gone through some similar struggles. Helping Aboriginal children to understand not to drop out of school. When I read that you were involved in that really touched me, because that is a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think over the years, in some part of ourselves, I think each individual Indigenous person, we understand the value of an education. We understand that that's a big part of what will take us along the steps we need to take to move on to whatever life we want to move on to in our career goals, our life goals, whatever they are. In the early years, for me, it really was a combination of, let's say, between the Arctic Rose album and the record deal with EMI and the album This Child, there was that period in there where there was a lot of franticness around who is Susan Aglukark. I mean, I'm asking myself this as well as people are trying to patchwork this brand, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to put the pieces together myself and stay caught up with how fast the machine was going. But at the core of it all, I knew that I had to, first of all, learn to love myself. And that was my first statement, was what is it that we need to do as an Indigenous community? And for me personally at that time, it was really, I got to learn to love myself. I got to learn to accept, learn to identify and work through the things that are keeping me from truly engaging in my dream life.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that is the role of learning. There is a stigma around education. Absolutely. It comes from a real place. So the role of learning, and the role of identifying goals in our lives, dreams in our lives, the thing that we want to do with our life. The connection, I think, at the time for me was, well, we need the education, because education provides the tools we need to, connect some dots, whatever they are in our hearts and our minds. But we're learning over the course of connecting those dots. Who are we in that big picture? What is the future of me in 5 years? What is my future in 10 years? Education is a stepping stone. It's a very important one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the real struggle for us is simultaneously while we're educating, we're also having to learn to love ourselves in the life that we're in at the moment. And that changes. That changes any given day, any given month, any given year. Mine certainly has over the course of the 25 years. But it really began with, I like where I'm at. This is me talking to myself 20, 25 years ago. I like where I'm at. Scary because I don't know what to do next. I know only that this writing has changed me, is changing me, and the change is I'm seeing myself for my potential for the first time in my life, and that became the goal, that became the purpose, and the statement from there on was we can't be on a healing path, a real meaningful healing path without a purpose, and the purpose. The biggest stepping stone is education. So the biggest hindrance to education is the stigma attached to it. How do we address that stigma? And we, as an Indigenous community, we've had amazing leaders over the course of, for example, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We've had leaders over the course of the year speak out on behalf of the powerful role that education will play in us as an Indigenous community. Making the big and meaningful changes we really need to make in our community. Without education, it is simply not going to happen.
Yeah, well, at least there's people out there that are trying. Now, one of the things I love about you is you try to put yourself in the shoes of Aboriginal and Inuit people when you write your songs. And that you can hear it through your songs. Now, my grandma she loved you. She absolutely loved you. And her favorite song was OCM, which is all about family. And that is it's a beautiful song. All your songs are beautiful. And I think you sing great. To hear you say that you don't think you're a good singer is like, what? I love your songs. Now, how many CDs do you have out? You have like 8, I think, right?
Currently, we have 8 that are available. I have technically recorded 10. The first 2 are no longer available or manufactured, but currently we have 8 that are available, and we are working on a 9th one right now.
Oh, so you're a busy girl.
Yes, yes, we are. And that's the beauty of the journey. I know I said that I never thought of myself as a good singer, but part of the journey from the early years to, I would say, about the early 2000s to about 2004, 2005 was, a decision I made, and the decision was, I have to backtrack. 1998, very specifically, I hit a big wall in my career, a big wall in my personal life. And that's the nature of a healing journey is, your stepping stones, the turning points, the forks in the road. When we make decisions to heal, certainly in my case, 1998 was a big turning point. It was, what do you want to do with this life? Do I pursue celebrity or do I pursue continuation of this healing journey? And I chose the healing journey. And part of that healing journey was, what are the things that I can change and what are the things I can't change? And one of the things on the list of things I could change was my singing. I love singing. We'll get better at it. And so on that list was taking singing lessons. So since 1998, I have worked hard to become a better singer. And I would say about 2004, 2005 is when I realized, you're not that bad at all. And from that point on to the last 12 years, it's really just become about, I love singing. I love the stage. It's no longer about, that was terrible. That was a terrible concert. That was a terrible performance. When you know it's a bad one, you know it's a bad one. And you have no control of the circumstances. You might have a cold. You might have laryngitis, and you still have to do a concert. Those are bad concerts. But overall, I've gotten over this whole, you're a terrible singer kind of perception of myself, dealt with it, and now I've fallen in love with it. So, that's the journey of healing, is the things you can change, you change. The things you can't change, you let them go. And that's been, I think, reflected in the albums that I've recorded. Like White Sahara, for example, was a big bump in the road for me. I was such a burnout in terms of songwriting, because part of the struggle for me as an songwriter is I've had to find a middle ground in this journey. The middle ground between I need the commercialism to support the artist and the business, but I have also a commitment to making sure that there is always room in my songwriting to make the statements that need to be made on behalf of the Indigenous community and myself as an Indigenous person. And finding that balance was often, and to a degree still is, pretty scary, because that's not a small responsibility. Especially right now in our current political climate, social climate of the Indigenous community, there's so much work that we need to do. There's so much work that our government needs to do that sometimes as an artist, we have actually, frankly, maybe a very big duty to whatever art we're practicing, all artists, Indigenous artists, we have a duty to remind our government gently, maybe sometimes not so gently, to say, guys, you're not meeting up to your promises. You're not meeting up to the terms that you agreed to. You're not doing the things you said you would do. And that can be a daunting task for an artist. So I've had to learn to find a balance between all three of those things. And as a songwriter, it got exhausting. So I was a burnout songwriter going into the White Sahara project. I wanted to continue the path of an artist, the healing path. So I said to my producer, I think for this one, I have to manage the anxiety, because it became massive anxiety attacks trying to write a song. So what we agreed on was, well, let's select your favorite song. Let's re-sing your songs. Let's make a compilation CD with the two songs that you do like and put those on there. And so White Sahara is a compilation CD, and it represents and is a reflection of how much my singing had changed, how much better it had gotten, but also a small step towards recovering the anxiety from the anxiety of songwriting and finding a balance between being a spokesperson while being true to the journey of the artist while continuing to heal. So White Sahara is a big turning point project for me.
Yeah, well, it's got both songs that I like on it. So now I'm going to touch on your awards and your honors, because it's amazing. And you amaze me, and you're just a great inspiration for a lot of people. Now, we'll start. You have received the Governor General's Lifetime Achievement Award in the Arts, Governor General's Office of the Order of Canada 2005. You have 3 Juno Awards under your belt.
Yep.
The first ever National Aboriginal Achievement Award in Arts and Entertainment. The Canadian Country Music Association's Vista Rising Star Award, the Native American Music Award, the Canadian Aboriginal Music Award. You have an honorary degree in law from the University of Alberta, an honorary degree in law from the Calgary University, an honorary doctorate of fine arts from the Lethbridge University. I'm getting all tongue-tied. There's too many of these. The Distinguished Scholar in Residence, University of Alberta, the honorary Doctor of Letters, and I'm going to say this, Laurentian University. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the selection committee member for the Arctic Inspiration Prize. You were the founder of the Arctic Rose Project, chair of the Arctic Children and Youth Foundation, and board member of the National Aboriginal Literacy Foundation. You're busy.
You're busy, but under here. So the Arctic Rose Project has since become the Arctic Rose Foundation. So for about 2 years, we pursued this charitable status, which was an interesting process in and of itself. But the mission has always been learning to love yourself. I always come back to that statement I made, which was nothing more than that's how I feel. I'm on a journey, and I'm rediscovering myself. And so the mission of the Art to Growth Foundation now is, very generally speaking, creating safe places for Indigenous children and youth. And so that's cultural safe places, emotional safe places, physical safe places, spiritual safe places, places where our young people and children can be nurtured to become their better selves, reconnect with their better selves. And it really comes from my personal journey in this career. Had it not been for the safe places that I found over the course of this career, I'm in one right now. I'm in the recording studio working on some songs in this quiet place. It's just a stunning place in front of a piano, sitting at a chair. This is my safe place. And my home has become a home that I've designed, not architecturally designed, but I've designed it so that it's a place where I can take a deep breath, and it's my home, and it's safe for me, and I can be myself. And if I hadn't had those places, if I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge that I deserve those spaces, and not in a militant way, but in a human way. We all, each and every single one of us, deserve those safe places. And so the foundation's goal now is we're going to reconnect ourselves with what those safe places feel like, and gradually over the course of the years, whatever programs are out there that keep that feeling deep inside of us alive, that this is my safe place. I understand it now. I need this place. Then we're going to identify those programs. If we don't have them, we're going to develop them. And so that's coming from personal experience. That's coming from an understanding that had it not been for those in my life, I would not have stayed on the healing journey. So all of those awards, they're people who are acknowledging the journey over the course of the 20 years. And in one breath, I say, I don't feel like I have earned them yet. On the other hand, it hasn't been easy. Saying that I've got these safe places is one thing, but I fight every day to belong to them. And those are, I think, the struggles and the decisions this generation of artists, as Indigenous artists, are going to make so that the next generation doesn't have to make them.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you've also performed for people that I don't even think I could speak in front of. Now, you've performed 3 times for Queen Elizabeth. Was it nervous the first time? Like, were you nervous?
I was very nervous because I was not a singer. I remember the song that they had requested was This Child. And if you listen to the song, even the band hates to perform it because it's not your standard 4 rhythm, 8 rhythm, regular 3 verses and a chorus and a bridge song. It was sung entirely constructed by the Inuktitut language, which is 5 beats here and 7 beats there and 6 beats here, and then take the count and count 3 beats to go into it. And the band is like, how do we do this? So the first time we perform it was for the Queen. No pressure.
Yeah, none at all.
So the first time I was very nervous, and the second and third time, the rules are so strict around any of that you just do your part and then you're forgotten, and that was easy to do.
Well, I don't know how you could be forgotten. Now, you also performed for Her Excellency the Countess of Wessex.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Canadian.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm going to get to the last one. I'm going to put him last because it blows me away. Canadian Prime Ministers John Chrétien and Brian Mulroney.
Yeah.
Now, the President of France, and it's Jacques Chirac, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The Governor General of Canada, Adrienne Clarkson, and you also performed at the 90th anniversary for Vimy Ridge, which is a huge deal. Now, the one person that just blows me away that you got to perform in front of was Nelson Mandela.
That was absolutely The top of my list, awesome. Next to having my son, I have to say, having a chance to meet and perform for Nelson Mandela, I don't know what else can possibly top that.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't either.
And you know what was incredible about that experience was there was a glitch in the track. There was a glitch with the technological glitch in the room. So they had to restart the OCM track. And I figured, okay, you got about 10 seconds. This is it for you. You have 10 seconds. So I ran across the room and I went over to Nelson Mandela and I said, I have to do this. My name is Susan Aglukark and I'm very honored to be here to perform for you. He gets up from his seat, surrounded by children, and he shakes my hand and he says, I'm Nelson Mandela. And all I could think was, I think the whole world knows who you are. You don't need introduction. And he was that humble.
Wow.
You know, in that moment, you realize, this is what you want to model, is no matter how many people in the world know you, that you remain that humble, that you stand up and you still introduce yourself and you still shake hands, you make that human contact. That was my takeaway from that experience, was he was still such a humble man and very giving man at that time.
That is fantastic. Okay, so now you've touched on your son. Do you just have the one son or do you have more?
No, just the one. He's 20 years old and he's absolutely perfect. So, and I love my work. I love to travel. And we were very fortunate that we had a child who loves our work and loves to travel. So, together, the three of us, we kind of just, when he's not busy in school, there's a chance to travel all over the world. That's what we do. And we just kind of keep it contained that way. So,
So, Susan, you did take, not really a break from your music, but you were a very busy lady. Now you're back in the studio, like you said. Now, do you think going forward that you'll be focusing more on your music, or are you still going to be involved in everything that you're involved in?
I've continued the music the last 25 years. As is often the case with, I'm thinking Canadian artists in general, Indigenous artists especially, I think we often have to support our careers with another job. So the U of A was a great opportunity, and I loved my time at the U of A, but it got a bit to be too much of a challenge to continue the songwriting and the recording and working with position. So I would love to find a position that allows me the space to do this, to continue the recording, but I will always be songwriting. I will always be recording. And frankly, we're doing another album right now, and it's really, really exciting because we've got a lot of great young talent coming out of Nunavut, and I'm collaborating with two right now for two of my songs. So we're having some really good time right now in the studio.
Well, that's nice. I can't wait till it comes out. Now we're going to hear two songs from you. We're going to hear OCM, which is one of my favorites, As Only a Heart Would Dare. Now, if people wanted to purchase your music, where would they go?
The best place to go right now is to our website, so susanaglukark.com, and we deal with everything directly ourselves. My husband and I manage everything together, so anyone who wants to see what's available, that's the best place to get them. I don't know, iTunes works too if they want to buy individual songs, but for an actual hard copy, our website is the best place.
Okay, and your website will be up on my website so people can find you. You have been amazing. I knew you were going to be amazing. I was actually very nervous about doing this interview because I look up to you. So thank you for making it easy, and thank you for telling us about your journey and everything. It was just a wonderful story, and my listeners are going to really enjoy it. So thank you so much, Susan.
Okay, thank you, Allie.
And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic. Keep checking my website because you never know what kind of surprises you'll find in my attic. Cheers.